Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash, and I am once again, like I was on Thursday, joined by the one and only Steve, aka Miller Time, to talk to you guys about Week 7 in the NFL. How are you doing today, Steve?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It was a pretty nice little Saturday. Swimming in the pool in October.
Nice.
Can't beat it. So
Yeah,
getting
definitely.
excited about tomorrow for sure.
What kind of weather you guys got over there right now?
It's 80s.
80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, very nice.
80s, nice.
Yeah.
It's
Our weather's
beautiful
just been all over the place. One day it's like 70, 80. The next day it's 30, 40. So it's just been kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that happens.
yeah. Well, I guess before we get started, Coach wasn't able to make it tonight, guys, unfortunately. But Steve and I are going to carry the weight here, and we're going to get into this Week 7. We've got 4 teams on a bye. Before we get started, want to mention that the Bills, the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Rams all have byes this week. So with that being said, Steve, let's go ahead and get into our top quarterbacks. Who is your top quarterback play this week?
My top quarterback play is gonna be Joe Burrow this week. I like what Joe Burrow did last week. They were behind with the Saints, and then they came back. They just kept coming through and kind of doing their thing. And I like the matchup. I like the matchup against the Falcons. So I like Joe Burrow this week. He's my top quarterback play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oddly enough, he's actually my top quarterback play as well. So, and last I checked, we can check real quick again, but last I checked, he wasn't the highest owned quarterback. It was, let me see, I'll tell you real quick here.
Lamar Jackson or Mahomes?
Let's see. On DraftKings, the highest projected owned quarterback is actually, yeah, Joe Burrow is now. He wasn't earlier. He's just barely edged out Lamar Jackson as of the latest projections. So he's 10.3, Lamar Jackson 10.1. So not huge chalk by any means. I think it's going to be pretty evenly distributed this week as far as the quarterbacks go. So
yeah, for sure. It's a crazy matchup too. So Atlanta last week kind of dominated the 49ers.
right.
Put up 28 points against the number 1 defense. So hopefully it's a back and forth game like that. But yeah, I really do like Joe Burrow this week. So
yeah, and I think Atlanta's going to come back to earth a little bit. I think that was a little bit of a fluke. So, yeah. Now after Joe Burrow, who would be your next favorite quarterback?
The next guy in line, Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
I like Lamar Jackson this week. He might be potentially without Mark Andrews. We shall see. They just brought in Deshaun Jackson. He's kind of a burner, but he goes from one team to another every year. But we shall see. I don't think Rashad Bateman's playing this week. So I see I see Lamar Jackson kind of doing his thing this week.
Yeah, I like Lamar Jackson as well. For me, my second favorite quarterback is going to be Coach's favorite quarterback, Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
He's 6,700 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel, $32 on Yahoo. Detroit's given up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So I like the matchup here for Dak Prescott coming back, and I think he'll have a big day. Detroit's defense has really struggled against every quarterback they've faced, it seems like. So
even
like
Carson Wentz. Yeah.
Even Carson Wentz. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Even Carson Wentz had, I think 29 or 30 fantasy points against them. So,
Yeah, I like that play a lot too. So I think that's a good pick.
He is right now, he is sixth. So not too crazy high in ownership, being the 6th highest owned projected quarterback. So, yep.
Yeah. So as far as like fading quarterbacks, even though the Buccaneers are playing Carolina this week, I'm going to fade Tom Brady.
Okay.
I don't know. I think they're going to get back to fundamentals. I think they're going to run the football a lot. I think they're just going to grind it out like that. And Carolina's kind of given up on their season anyways. So I think they're going to get back to the fundamentals of football. And I'm going to fade Tom Brady because I think they're going to run the ball more than they pass the ball this week.
Yeah. Probably you think they're going to blow them out too?
I think they'll probably blow them out as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as the value, before I give you my fade and my value, who would be your value quarterback this week?
It's tough, a guy just kind of that could fit into your roster where you can add more, you can get better players at more of the other skilled positions. I know it's kind of jumping out there, but my value would be Davis Mills. Against the Raiders. The Raiders have really done nothing to a quarterback. I mean, they got Max Crosby, and he comes off the edge in this, but I think they will figure out a way to get the ball to Nico Collins and to Brandon Cooks and give Pierce the ball a lot. So I actually like Davis Mills this week as a GPP play for sure.
Nice. He's coming at right now projected 3% ownership, so definitely going to be a nice GPP play if that play comes through for you. For me, I like Geno Smith. He has a good matchup against the Chargers. They've allowed the fourth most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and I think it's a good matchup for him. He's been playing really well this year, a lot better than I think just about anybody expected. So I definitely like him. He's a little bit higher owned. He's fifth right now in projected ownership, but at 5,600 on DraftKings, I think that's a really good price for him.
It's a steal. Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be a high scoring game. That's probably going to be the highest scoring game of the week. Yeah. Is the Seahawks against the Chargers. So yeah, I really like that play, Josh.
And then let's see here. My fade is going to be I'm going to fade Matt Ryan is actually coming in pretty high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th or 8th right now, depending on where you look. So I will definitely fade Matt Ryan against Tennessee. I think that their defense is going to get after him. They did pretty well the last time they faced him, and so I like Tennessee to give him some trouble. So I'm going to fade Matt Ryan. All right, so let's go on and look at the running backs. Who is your favorite pay-up running back this week?
I got 6 running backs that I really, really like this week. I like, no particular order. I like Josh Jacobs. He's doing killer this year. He's, they give him the ball a lot. He looks really explosive. Looks like a new guy. Maybe it's because they didn't take on his 5th-year option. So I like Josh Jacobs. I like Eckler as well. Again, what we were talking about earlier, high scoring game. And then on the other side of the ball, Kenneth Walker. I mean, that guy, you watch that guy. That guy is, he's something special. The way he runs, he's always moving forward. He's got like that Barry Sanders type of feel to him, but he's so explosive and so dynamic. I really, really, really think he's I think he's going to be a number 1 running back all year long, or a RB1 all the way for the rest of the season. I think you can plug him in every week. So that's 3 of the 6. Who do you got?
I have Derrick Henry at the top. He scored 25 plus DraftKings points in 3 straight games. He had 26.7 against the Colts 3 weeks ago, and he scored in his last 5 games. He's had over 100 rushing yards against the Colts. So
for sure,
I do like Derrick Henry. I also like Josh Jacobs, as you mentioned. He had 144 and 154 rushing yards against Denver and Kansas City. So going up against Houston, they've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs. And he's only 6,500 on DraftKings. He's 8,600 on FanDuel, so I don't like him as much over there. But at 6,500 on DraftKings, I feel like that's a steal. And even a bigger steal potentially in Kenneth Walker. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. Chargers have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. and it's a good matchup for him. So I like Kenneth Walker as well. Who are you looking at as far as a fade on your running backs?
So I'm fading Nick Chubb this week. Just I just kind of just feel it this week. I think they utilized him. He's been getting a lot of touches. I think they're going to set that back a little bit. I think Kareem Hunt's going to get more involved in that as well, and I'm sure he's a pretty high owned player this week. So I'm fading him, and I'm fading Jonathan Taylor this week too. First game back, playing Tennessee. I think they're going to try to get him involved, but I don't think they're going to overutilize him.
Yeah, Chubb's actually not getting a lot of ownership at this point,
really?
Projected, but Taylor is getting more than Chubb. But the guys that we mentioned, and Jacobs, Walker, Eckler, those are the top three right now. So we'll have to see if that changes. But it looks like we're kind of in the same line of thinking as the general public.
For sure. And Derrick Henry, I mean, that's spot on. I mean, he's been getting 26, 27, 28 touches, rushing attempts for the past 3 games. Just came out of a bye. He's probably going to be 30 plus touches this week. So a lot of volume. He's probably going to break one. So that's a great pick, Josh. I like that a lot.
Awesome. So let's go over to wide receiver. I think this is where we can probably get different than a lot of the field, just the way I'm thinking it's going to go. But we'll see. What do you feel as far as wide receiver? Who's your top wide receiver right now?
My top wide receiver is Jamar Chase. Again, that goes with my top quarterback, as in Burrow. I think Chase is coming along. I think he'll have a 2-touchdown game this week. I think he's gonna do a lot this week, and I like all the receivers for the Bengals, but I think Jamar Chase is gonna do really well. That's probably my number one, and then my number 2 is Michael Pittman. He had 16 targets last week. I'm sure Matt Ryan's gonna turn the ball over, either fumble or throw a pick or this or that, but that's not going to stop the volume that Michael Pittman's going to get throughout the game. So those are top picks this week.
It's like him and Alec Pierce, and just about no one else to throw to. Now with Taylor back, it may be a little bit easier for them to rely on him, but it's pretty tough as far as their weapons go. So. For me, I like CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to pair him up with Dak Prescott. He's 6,800 on DraftKings, 7,700 on FanDuel, $23 on Yahoo. I also like T. Higgins. I think he's going to be a good pivot from Jamar Chase, who I think is probably going to be pretty high owned. He's 6,400 on DraftKings, 7,100 on FanDuel, and $21 on Yahoo. I think that, after what happened last week with Jamar Chase with his big game, I think that Higgins could be, if Atlanta focuses on Chase, he could be the benefactor of that. So I like Higgins a lot this week.
For sure. Absolutely. I like it too. Kind of my long shot plays is Brandon Cooks this week against the Raiders.
Yeah.
So, that'll tie up into that GPP play with Davis Mills. So I kind of like him this week. And another guy is Amari Cooper.
I like Amari. Yeah.
Against Baltimore, they have one of I think they're 27th ranked against the receiver, and he's been getting a lot of targets every week, pretty stable, and I think he's gonna do well for sure.
Believe it or not, Brandon Cooks is slightly ahead of Amari Cooper in projected ownership. Cooks is projected at 10%, and Cooper's only at 7%. So that's interesting to me. I like Cooper as well. He would be the next guy in line for me after Higgins. And then as far as value goes, I do like Tyler Lockett. I like pairing him up with Geno Smith. He's only 5,800 on DraftKings. Had a down week last week. I think he can bounce back in a big way against the Chargers. So who are you looking to fade as far as the top wide receivers?
Yeah, so a guy I'm looking to fade is Deebo Samuel this week. Then bringing in Christian McCaffrey. I think they're going to get him involved. I think Deebo's going to be running it less now that Christian McCaffrey's in play. So I'm fading Deebo Samuel, and I'm fading all of the Broncos wide receivers. So I wouldn't take any of them this week against the Jets. Those are my two big fades this week. Yeah.
The Jets were very impressive. I was very impressed by them last week against my Packers. Unfortunately, that was a rough game, but the Jets are looking like they're for real. So
yeah, all phases of the game.
Yeah, I know. And Robert Saleh's really got them playing way above their heads. So I like it. For me, I think Chris Godwin kind of going along with your Brady fade.
Yep.
I think that they're going to run the ball a lot and be ahead most of the game, if not all this game. So I think Chris Godwin he is projected right now for almost 13% ownership. So he's like 5th in projected ownership on DraftKings. So he would be my fade.
Okay. I like it.
And that is going to do it for wide receivers. So we're going to look at tight ends. Now, tomorrow is, I don't know if you know this, tomorrow is National Tight Ends Day. Last year, there was just a crap load of tight ends that scored touchdowns. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the case again. I've got some 2 tight end lineups right now that I'm looking at. Who is your favorite tight end at the top?
My favorite tight end right at the top is Robert Tonyan.
Okay.
I think I think the Packers is trying to get that identity. The running game hasn't really been working. The receivers haven't been working, and Tonyan's just been kind of that guy that, he's been relied on, and Rodgers went to him a lot last game. So Robert Tonyan's my number 1 guy against a bottom of the barrel defense in the Commanders this week. So he's my number 1 guy. Who do you got, Josh?
I have Gerald Everett. He's 4,000 on DraftKings. He's quite a bit more on FanDuel at 6,300. He's $20 on Yahoo. Seattle's allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends, and of course, Gerald Everett started his career in Seattle. So I like the revenge narrative, and like I said, they've allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends. So Gerald Everett is going to be my favorite tight end.
Yeah, tight end's a tough position, but I didn't realize tight end National Tight End Days tomorrow. Another tight end I like is I like Kittle. Kittle got 10 targets last game.
Yeah.
So he was getting the volume, especially when they're coming from behind, and in a game and when they're playing against the Chiefs, I think he's going to see the same type of volume as he did last week. So I like Kittle as well for sure.
So it looks like the highest projected on tight end, of course, if he plays, is Mark Andrews, but right behind him is actually Foster Moreau. Because I guess Darren Waller is looking like he's going to be out. But do you like that play, or do you think that that's a trap?
I don't see him getting many targets. I see him potentially getting a touchdown, but I don't want to have a guy that's touchdown dependent.
Right.
So I would see that as kind of a trap.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. So right after Robert Tonyan, who would be your next in line?
My next in line would be Kittle.
That's right. Yeah.
Kittle. I like Kittle.
And for me, I like Dalton Schultz. He's 3,600 on DraftKings, 4,800 on FanDuel, $14 on Yahoo. He saw 9 targets in Dak Prescott's only start this year, and Dak targeted him quite a bit when he played last year. So I think that he will again. Schultz has kind of been the forgotten man in Dallas this year with Cooper Rush, but I think that that'll change once Prescott is back under center. So I do like that.
They're going to play. I wonder how much they're going to play Jake Ferguson.
That's an interesting question. Too. Yeah.
Pretty good. Good rookie. I wonder if they're going to be split. I mean, Dalton Schultz is the guy in that situation, but he looked pretty good. Ferguson, he's got pretty good feet work. And and he's a good blocking guy too. So,
that's a good point. I mean, he could definitely be a GPP low-owned tight end that scores a touchdown tomorrow. I could definitely see that. And then I guess my fade would probably be Foster Moreau if he's the second highest owned tight end.
I'd fade him.
Yes, that's pretty scary. And then I do like Dulcich, however you say it, for Denver. Only 2,500 on DraftKings, so that's probably the main reason. But he is getting quite a bit of ownership, so I don't know. I may end up fading him as well because the Jets' defense is really tough. Then again, they did allow a lot to Robert Tonyan, so
they did. Who's the quarter? Is it going to be Brian Rippon that's going to start?
Russell Wilson is out. It is Brett Rippon. Yeah.
Brett Rippon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mark Rippon's like nephew.
Mark Rippon's, yeah, I think it's his nephew.
Like uh-huh.
Yeah. So quick recap: you've got Tunyon, Kittle, and who is your value?
I don't really have a value play as far as the main slate goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, those are the kind of the two guys that I would try to get in my lineup.
I guess Ferguson would be a
than
flyer.
potentially having Andrews. What's that?
I said I guess maybe Ferguson would be a flyer.
Yeah, Ferguson would be a flyer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. And what did you say about Andrews?
If Andrews plays, I always try to get Andrews in my lineup if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been banged up all week. They don't say if he's expected to play. They haven't gone either way with that just yet. So I would just keep an eye on that. And if you are, doing it within that 90 minutes before game time, I would try to get him in your lineup if you can.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the tight ends. Before we get into the defense, if you are new to the channel, if you would hit the like and the subscribe button. Also, make sure you hit the alarm bell. That will let you know when the newest podcast has gone live. And then our presenting sponsor is Boom Fantasy. If you go to Boom Fantasy, the app would be the preferred way to do it for me. I would recommend that. Go to Boom Fantasy. They will 100% match your first deposit up to $100. And we need to do our giveaway, Steve. So let's see who we've got here in the chat. All right. So let me see here. Rodney Pollard. Rodney Pollard is our winner. So congrats. If you could DM Coach, he will make sure you get that ticket. And let's go ahead and wrap up the position by position breakdown with the defenses. So who is your favorite defense this week?
My favorite defense this week is the Buccaneers. The Panthers, again, cleaning house, got rid of a receiver, just traded a running back, trying to acquire a bunch of draft picks. I think they're just kind of tanking it at this point. So I do like the Bucs defense, and the Bucs defense is a pretty strong unit. That's my number one. And then my number two defense is the Jets. I like the Jets. I like what they did last week. Now coming in with Brian Rippon, I guess, is the quarterback with Javonte Williams gone, and then them really not knowing the running back situation and the quarterback really not getting that much play all week. I like the Jets a lot this week. So those are my two top defenses. Who do you got?
Yeah, they're actually on DraftKings. They're the two highest owned projected. Now, I don't think on FanDuel it's like that at all because the Jets are like 4,300 on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, it is, well, they're still pretty high. They weren't that high at all earlier this week, but I think when Russell Wilson was ruled out, they probably moved up their ownership quite a bit. But yeah, so it's the Bucs, then the Packers, and the Jets on FanDuel.
That's another situation with. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing with Wentz being out.
Right. I actually think it's going to hurt them a little bit. As a Packers fan, we saw Taylor Heineke last year, and he had a pretty nice game, especially on the ground. He had 95 yards rushing. So I'm not going to go to the Packers defense this week. I like the Bengals against the Falcons. That's probably my top as far as a pay-up defense. And then I like the Raiders and the Jets. So I like the Jets as well. I was very impressed with them last week against the Packers, obviously. And I'll probably be using them quite a bit this year, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And defense I'm fading is going to be the Giants this week.
Okay.
The Giants that's the Jaguars. They're playing down there. It's supposed to be a hot day. And I just think I don't know. I just don't I don't see it I don't see the Giants stopping that offense that often. So I'm taking I'm taking the Jags in that game.
The Jags. Okay. And then for me, looks like on DraftKings, Denver is the fourth most popular defense. So I'm going to fade them. I think the Jets roll in that game. So let's look at the questions real quick. See if we got any questions here. Heineke's going to crush it tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Hurst or Tanyan. My main
Hurst or Tanyan? Is that what he has?
Yeah, that's what he has. The funny thing is that my play of the week is Joe Burrow, which is takes in Hurst.
Right.
But my number one tight end is Tanyan, so I'm going to have to play Tanyan, but it's close.
Yeah.
I like both of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so I guess the last but not least, is our Boom Fantasy plays. So who do you have as your top 2 Boom Fantasy plays this week?
Yeah, so my top 2 fantasy plays, as far as the toss-ups go, is I got Amari Cooper over 4.5 receptions, and I have Jared Goff over half of an interception. So one pick.
I like that. Yeah.
4.5
receptions. Cooper's been getting a ton of targets, so I like that a lot. Yeah. And then Goff, I think he'll probably be running for his life tomorrow. So Dallas pass rush is pretty serious.
Oh yeah.
For me, I've got Derrick Henry over 89.5 rushing yards. Like I said, he's gone over that in 4 of his last 5 against the Colts. Over 100 actually. And then Taylor Heineke, they've got him only at 14.5 rushing yards, and he ran for 95 against Green Bay last year. So I'm sure Green Bay is going to attack, differently with their defense. But I mean, I have a hard time seeing him getting, more than 80 yards less than he got last time. So I think that's a good play for Heineke. Yeah. So
I have 2 long shots. I have, like I said earlier, I have Jamar Chase getting over 1.5 touchdowns. And I have, even though I think the Jags are going to win this game, I have Saquon Barkley having over 1.5 touchdowns. So I think both those guys will reach pay dirt twice.
Okay.
I like long shots. Yeah.
All right, guys. Any questions before we get out of here? Let's see. What we got. 3 touchdown day for Heineke, he says. I'll take the under on that one. Yeah, I'll take the under on that. Don't really see any other questions from the fans here. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's going to do it for week 7. We should have Coach back with us next week, and hope you guys have a great Sunday. We're absolutely looking to crush it this week, as we always are. Steve, thanks for everything. And we will see you guys again next week as we look to crush it in NFL DFS and Boom Fantasy. Thank you.